Alright, what's good YouTube? It's your boy Treyshellz. You already know what time it is, and today we're gonna be talking about that Sonic GT because that nigga Gabriel Gonzalez has the blueprint to something crazy, you feel me? This could potentially be the spiritual successor to the adventure games. Who knows? But if you like today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get started. Sonic fans never cease to surprise me. This fandom is one of the most skilled and passionate fan bases on the internet. Sonic fans took the time to make their own games. Sonic fan games have always existed since the late 90s. Robo Blast 2 is an example. The one I used to play a lot as a kid was Ultimate Flash Sonic back in the early 2000s. It was basically the advanced games but on your computer. I used to put hours into this game as a kid, and it didn't matter if I was at home or at school. I loved this short ass game. September 5th, 2020, while fans were eagerly waiting for Sonic Colors Ultimate the following year, that game had a terrible launch, Sonic GT released to the public on GameJolt, a site for video games by fans for fans. Now GameJolt has a lot of dope stuff on there. Now before I talk about GT in great detail, I have to mention the bumper engine. Created by Supersonic 68, the bumper engine is a fan-made Sonic engine that mixes the adventure style gameplay with the physics of the Genesis games. Open source and in-game tutorial for beginners, the bumper engine was something else. I played around with the bumper engine back when it was released in April of 2018. It really felt like Sonic Adventure 2. Supersonic 68 is the same person who made Green Hill Paradise Act 2, so I wouldn't be surprised if the creator of GT took inspiration from Green Hill Paradise Act 2 for his own game. The creator of Sonic GT, Gabriel Gonzalez, presents the blueprint to something amazing. It's crazy to see how far Sonic GT came. The earlier builds look vastly different from the final release. That's to be expected, but it's still pretty cool to look at. On the Tales channel website, you can find a detailed interview with the creator of GT. Gabriel says this in the interview. At first, Sonic GT was not Sonic GT at all. It was just me finding a way to get into Unity, learning C#, and pursuing something that I've always wanted to go for, developing games. I've always liked doing level for games. I have been doing it ever since I got my hands on Half-Life and discovered that you can make your own levels with the Valhammer editor. Since that time, I never stopped making levels, be it for Half-Life, Counter-Strike, Team Fortress, or even Arma. I was super happy to discover that I can use the bumper engine to actually facilitate this learning and actually have a head start on doing what I like more, making actual levels. I will leave a link to the rest of that interview below if you want to read the whole thing. It's only a 4-minute read, but enough about the Gonzalez lore. Time for some of that GT goodness. Sonic GT, or Grand Tour if you will, is a free-to-play fan game with voice acting, cutscenes, and a story. Most Sonic fan games don't really have any of this. I think Omens was the first to have all of this, but that's a can of worms that doesn't need to be opened. There really isn't much of a story here. Eggman kidnaps Ray, so Sonic along with Tails and Mighty go around the 4 levels hoping to find Ray. Why did Eggman kidnap Ray? So he can get Mighty Shell for his robot. Yeah, the story isn't nothing to write home about. So how about that voice acting? Bruh, it's so fucking mid. Characters like Ray and Tails sound fine, but whenever I hear Eggman, Mighty, Sonic, and Shadow, it doesn't sound good. Just take a listen for yourself.
I've got your little friend. If you ever want to see him again, come to the ocean paradise. Or maybe don't, you hard-shelled nincompoop. Sincerely yours, Dr. Eggman. Eggman!
Well, well. Look who's in need of my assistance. Thanks. That was embarrassing. If I wasn't so hogtied, I wouldn't have been able to undo those idiots. Legal activity? Those words coming from you? Nuh-uh, not happening. As infantile as ever, I see. As infantile as ever, I see. I'll show you how infantile I can be with your incessant blathering.
Now, I don't mean any disrespect to the voice actors, and I hope they don't take offense to anything I say. If Gabriel makes a GT2 and uses the same voice actors, hopefully everyone will make massive improvements. There is one thing I don't like about the story, and it's the part where the gang gets to Sunset Boulevard and they meet up with Shadow. Sonic says a line that I don't like, and I'll just play the clip.
Is it bad if I say I kinda liked him best when he was sacrificing himself for the sake of the planet?
That's terrible! Don't joke about that!
See, I'm not a big fan of Sonic being a dick to Shadow or anyone in general. The fact that Sonic says he liked Shadow better when he was gonna die on the arc was fucked up. Sonic is my favorite character in the series, with Shadow being my second, and it doesn't sit right with me. Sonic says he's not even joking about it. As I stated earlier, the bumper engine uses the controls from the adventure games and the physics from the Genesis games. When the bumper engine was released, a YouTuber named Knuckles3 and Knuckles, which is now named Gotta Be Frank, created a video on said engine. Gotta Be Frank said this about the engine.
Now, I have nothing against, like I said, nothing against developers of the engine or developers who want to make levels using the bumper engine. It's just something that I need to talk about. I think it would be incredibly difficult to turn this to use this engine in a proper 3D fan game for a few reasons, and we're going to go through that right now. One of them being, well, I mean, you'd have to create some massive levels, because look at that. Look at how much distance he can cover in just a couple of seconds at his top speed.
He is absolutely right. If you play the open world maps in the bumper engine, you'll see the problems. Sonic covers so much distance in a few seconds, I can't really blame the engine, more so the people who create the levels. The comment section was spitting nothing but facts. A lot of them stuck out to me, especially these ones. So we've already talked about how when most people use the bumper engine, they stick Sonic in these giant open levels with nothing to do, or they don't change the way Sonic controls. The engine is open source. So how does GT approach this? Well, for starters, GT level design is massive. I think it's a bit too large. You'll see what I mean when I talk about the levels. Ocean Paradise. The first level of GT. Similar to Ocean Palace from Sonic Heroes, Ocean Paradise is a decent first level, letting you familiarize yourself with the controls. It is a really nice looking level. There's water that you could run across at top speed. Hilltop Zone. For the first time ever, this level is in 3D. It's kind of dope seeing my favorite level from Sonic 2 in 3D for the first time. In my opinion, Hilltop is the best level in GT. Fun fact, Gabriel says this about Hilltop. The stages were kind of based on what I could achieve at the time. Hilltop was selected because I didn't want to make yet another Green Hill. After a while, it got to a point where it was its own thing with custom textures, custom trees, grass, and so on. There's also a version of Hilltop called Helltop. It's only playable during story mode, where Hilltop is on fire and looks like hell, hence the name Helltop. The song that plays here kicks so much ass, but I can gush about the soundtrack much later. Sunset Boulevard. This level is what would happen if Radical Highway, Studiopolis, and Speed Harry got tossed into a blender. You get Sunset Boulevard, a nice casino-themed city level that has a pretty good view when you play as Ray. Finally, last but not least, Hidden Base. My least favorite level in GT. I don't think it's terrible, just not as expressive or exciting as the other three. I mean, it is fitting because it's the final level. Earlier, I mentioned the level design was too large. Back in 2019, I made a video about two fan games, Green Hill Paradise Act 2 and Sonic Utopia. In that video, I said the level design was too large and it's easy to get lost. For a character like Sonic who focuses on speed and platforming, the level design for either game wasn't good. GT is the same, but at least with GT, there's some type of direction when you play the game. Every level has arrows, but I never noticed nor did I need them. I was able to find the goal with ease. I did watch a bunch of GT videos before I actually sat down and played the game, so I guess that helped. I got a few of my friends that play GT as well, and they got lost while playing and I had to guide them. My friends also felt the controls were a bit too loose, and I agree. Don't get me wrong, I love the physics of GT, but the controls can be tweaked a bit. Running at top speed feels satisfying and I love it. I also mentioned earlier how I like running across the water at top speed. I just don't like running into objects. That kills a speed run. I could run into a tree or a cone and fuck, I have to start over. One of the things I like the most about running at top speed is getting that after image effect. It looks sick and reminds me of Sonic Advance 2. Every character has different attributes. During the story mode, you can only play as Sonic or Mighty, but once you beat the story, you have two other unlockable characters. Shadow is one of them, and Ray is the second one, and he makes his first 3D debut in the Sonic game alongside Mighty. I can't wait to talk about these two because I have a lot to say about them. Sonic is the most average character in the game. He is average speed and average jump height, still fun to play, but Sonic's kind of a basic bitch. I wish he had a different voice actor or something, because every time I pick Sonic, I gotta hear
Alright, let's jam!
every time, and it's so annoying. Mighty is the worst character in the game to me. He's pretty slow and not fun to use. Just like in Sonic Mania, He can't even destroy spikes like how he can do in Mania. Nothing interesting about Mighty, so it's time to move on. Shadow is the fastest character out of the main 4. Shadow has the fastest homing attack in the game. Shadow's homing attack is potentially faster than a Force's homing attack. Shadow also has chaos powers. Although his chaos powers are kinda hard to use, I've used them by accident. Still pretty neat. One downside to Shadow is that he's one of the few characters that can't drop dash. Ray plays just like how he does in Sonic Mania, but in 3D. And I'm just gonna say it right now, Ray is the best character in Sonic GT. This man can fly. Well, he's really gliding, but it still counts. Tails is in the game and it would have been dope to play as him in GT, but Ray seems more like an interesting pick. Now that I think about it, I wonder how Tails and Knuckles would play in GT if the creator put them in the game. Ray's glide is similar to how Batman glides in the Arkham games. Ray's just so fun to play as, and it's super satisfying to run at top speed, jump off a slope that's sending you upward, and watch him glide past everything. Ray is just objectively the best character in the game, and I'm not sure what else to say about him other than he's the best character. This man controls so well in the air, and I really can't describe everything into words about why I like Ray without repeating myself. You just have to play it for yourself. Ray is just objectively the best character. Sonic GT has 3 hidden characters that you can unlock. Once you beat the story mode, you unlock the time attack mode. This lets you play with any character in any stage. In this mode, you'll notice in the bottom left of your screen that you have a radar. The radar lets you know when you're getting close to a secret. Once you get all the Chaos Emeralds, you unlock Super Sonic. When you get all the emblems, you unlock Classic Sonic, and collecting all 4 metal parts unlocks Metal Sonic. Super Sonic is kind of broken, but I expect that of him. I'm not a big fan of how Super Sonic is handled in this game. He's his own character. If it were up to me, I'd make the how Super Sonic was always handled. After getting 50 rings, you jump and press Y and bam, you're Super Sonic. Super Sonic loses rings really fast, so be cautious and keep an eye on your rings. Classic Sonic. This man is probably my second favorite character to play as, right behind Ray. Shadow is my third favorite character in the game. Now, Classic Sonic can't do the fancy shit like light speed dash or the flashy tricks, but this little nigga's drop dash is insane. Classic Sonic's jump height is ridiculous. It's fucking crazy how high in the sky he can get. I don't think any other character could jump this high. Here's a comparison with all the characters at the same height. Classic Sonic is busted, bruh. Now Metal Sonic is pretty interesting. He's another character that can't drop dash just like Shadow and Ray, but Metal Sonic can boost. It's not like a traditional boost in Sonic games. You need enough rings to keep your boost. Without rings, you can't boost, so it doesn't feel like boost to win. Metal Sonic's boost is a little weird. It is great to use it to get some distance, but you can't use the boost to plow through cones in Sunset Boulevard. Anyone who's played a boost Sonic game knows that Sonic plows right through boxes and enemies, so a few cones should be no exception. It's weird because you lose a bit of your speed and momentum. That's just a small nitpick that I have with Metal Sonic. If there's one thing I have to say that I dislike about all the characters is that every character can perform the homing attack. Classic Sonic with the homing attack doesn't bother me too much, but characters like Mighty and Ray don't need one. They damn near feel like carbon copies of other characters. That'll be like playing a new 3D Sonic game with Knuckles and Tails and they have a homing attack. Honestly, all the characters in GT are solid. Well, 6 out of 7 ain't bad. Now this isn't in my script, but I just thought about this. Super Sonic's playable, but how come I can't play as any of the other characters in their super form? Shadow's the fastest character in the game and it's kind of criminal that I can't use his super form in GT. This goes for Classic Sonic and Ray as well. Imagine if you were able to play as Super Classic Sonic or Super Ray. Bruh, the possibilities are endless. But I digress. Another thing I don't like about GT are the shields. More specifically, the elemental shields. Whenever you pick up an elemental shield, you can't drop dash anymore. I don't like that. It's really bad, especially for Classic Sonic, who relies on a drop dash heavily. You can't do it anymore. It also fucks up a speed run. I know I won't shut up about them, but I would have loved to see Tails or Knuckles as unlockable characters. Especially Knuckles, as he's never been playable by himself in a 3D game besides in fan games. Or Amy. I mean, she is in a game and she does drive a car. She also tries to hit you with a hammer. Now it's time for me to gush about the music. And you know what? I don't need to go in depth with Sonic music. It's fucking Sonic music. What do you want me to say? Even if the game isn't good, the music will always be awesome. It's gotten to a point where even fans can make good music for Sonic. Just know when you hear the word Sonic, your ears will be on the ride of their lives. And GT is no different. I'll play a few songs just so you can hear it for yourself. If you know me, then you know I really don't like Sonic 3D fan games that much. People claim that they're better than the official games from Sonic Team, but I don't think that's true, and I want the fandom out of this mindset. While it's not fan-made, many attain it to fandom. Look, I get it, I completely do. My GOAT Sonic has had his ups and downs, but I don't think 3D fan games deserve all the praise that they get. Look at what happened with Sonic Omens. Most, if not a majority of 3D Sonic fan games don't meet the requirement of what makes a Sonic game good. And that brings up a question, what makes a good Sonic game? That answer will vary from person to person. But if you want my answer to that question, what makes a good Sonic game to me is when you give the game an amazing story. I feel like story is more important than gameplay when it comes to Sonic. You also need to create fun and satisfying gameplay with level design that has passion behind it. When creating a Sonic game, you have to realize that level design and control works well together with Sonic. If one fails, both will fail. Sonic can't feel sluggish or too overpowered. You have to find that sweet spot, and 3D fan developers just haven't found that sweet spot. When it comes to controlling Sonic, well, at least in 3D, the adventure games have the perfect formula. If I were to rank 3D fan games, a lot of them would fail in many areas, getting an E rank. So how does GT hold up? Well, Sonic GT is a B+ at best and just a B at worst. Where it lacks in story, it far more than makes up for creativity and control, even if it is a bit too loose. The level design needs some work, but this is promising. I doubt we'll ever get an Adventure 3, but if we did, I would want it to be similar to GT. Sonic GT knows the fundamentals of what makes a good Sonic game. Fun and creative gameplay, multiple playable characters that have unique attributes exclusive to them, like Ray being the only character that can glide and Metal Sonic being the only character that can boost. Sonic GT is awesome, and if you haven't played it, please do and show some love to Gabriel Gonzalez, because I believe Sonic GT is the blueprint to something truly amazing. Alright yo, that's gonna be it for today. Like, do whatever you like, subscribe, whatever. I'm going to sleep.